Nerds International proudly presents.
Alright, hello and welcome to the 3T RPG podcast. My name is Harrison Blunt and with me is Nick Lamley.
Where am I?
And today we have a special guest, Owen Lean. This podcast is all about tabletop RPGs and today we're going to be talking all things Deadlands. But before we do that, I just want to mention actually, speaking of paying to be here, Nick and I are starting a dark army and we intend to dominate at least half of the world, innit?
Well, we'll start with South East London and then take Surrey and take it from there, hopefully.
From there, yeah. Basically, our Patreon, we finally actually got around to doing tiers for it, so you can be a bone guy, a necromancer, a dark lord, no, a dreadlord, or a lord of the Devil Kings. And that means that depending on what you pay, you're going to be at a different rank in our horrific army, and we're actually going to conquer real areas, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, so what I want to do, and I'm going to do this at the beginning of every episode from now on, I'm going to thank all the Dreadlords and Devil Kings. Julian Burnick and Ryan Wahab are the current two at those ranks. They are high-ranking members in our army.
Oh yes,
good for them.
And of course, I want to shout out all the necromancers and bone guys too. You know who you are. Welcome to the army. Just keep your weapons sharpened. We'll have instructions for you soon.
Keep your wits about you. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
in case any of those adventurers come knocking.
Oh yeah, and then we'll have a code word. And when that code word's said, you know it's time.
Jenga.
Don't say
if you hear the word Jenga. Oh, sorry. It's too late now.
You better ring Julian.
Right, so today we're going to have some segments, right? I know it's unorthodox, but we're going to fucking do it. We've got What You've Been Slaying, where we talk about what we've been playing. We've got the main subject, which this time is going to be Deadlands. Although, because Owen is now the proud father of 2 children, it's going to be Dadlands.
Dadlands. Very nice. I see what you
having that
there.
One?
Yeah.
And then we're going to finish with some electro letters, where we solve your RPG problems. Should we talk about what we've been playing?
Oh yeah.
I'd like that.
And one of these. Oi, yeah. What you slaying? Okay, so first up, we finished our bloody Fallout ICRPG campaign. Went pretty well. The whole thing. For those that don't know, ICRPG is a kind of OSR type game. Very simple. You level up by getting loot. Loot gives you abilities and so on. And I think that's why it fat the Fallout world so well. So yeah, we finished this up. Nick was playing a super smart super mutant, and essentially the very final mission. The whole thing was them trying to get a water purification trip to deliver to a vault, so that the vault would let them in and they would have safety, basically. They end up getting the chip, having to journey through the wasteland to get to the Brotherhood of Steel, who had it in the end. And
please tell me the vault just didn't let them in. I really hope that's what happened.
Well, yeah, you'll see, because it was pretty funny.
Okay.
So what it was to get to the Brotherhood of Steel. I had this mission where I used, I don't know if you guys are aware of like the when you're going to on Roll20, you can have this like line of sight vision mechanics that you can do where you block out areas of the map so that you can only see what your character sees.
With dynamic lighting and all that, yeah.
It's pretty cool actually, and basically it was a mission to navigate through some caves where there were Mirelurks and things like this. And the way I sort of got them to go through the caves is there was an earthquake and there was like this huge river of mutated radiated water between them and the other side, so they had to go underground. Anyway, what was pretty funny was instead of trying to go through the fucking cave, they tried to vault their car across by driving over a ramp.
Brilliant.
A supercar, may I add.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good fucking car, but what was pretty funny
It was
is we
battered.
it was on 1 HP, this car, so
It was on borrowed time anyway, and we were like, do you remember when we were like, right, let's we could say it'd be one big hurrah for it, and then it rolled to see if it could hear that, and it didn't. We just told him it was going for a big jump.
yeah, the car was trying to listen, and then they were like, right, this will be one
man.
last thing we do with the car, and the car's like, what'd you say? And they're like, nothing. What was funny though was that we did the jump as a skill challenge, so you had to get 3 successes before 3 failures, and they got 3 failures just right out the gate, and clapped into the water. I just straight up, I didn't even get them to roll con. I just said, right, we're rolling mutations for everyone, and then you get a chance to swim out. So some people got 2 because they failed to swim out as well.
Oh my god,
Which
that's
was really funny.
amazing.
And because Nick was playing a super mutant, he just straight walked out of the river and he was fine. But the best
problems.
one was that there was a sort of cowboy-esque character called Ray McScriff on the team, and he straight away got Fatty Reservoir. So he became so fat that he lost. Yeah, and that's now my new rapping name, by the way.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, he became so fat he lost 3 decks, then lost an arm and lost a further 3 decks. So he was basically useless at shooting at that point, and he was really, really gigantic. Everyone just turned into these hideous monstrosities. People grew tails, giant teeth. It was amazing.
Jeez.
My character just looking at him was just like, what?
Yeah. Well, your guy was pretty handsome for a super mutant. We found this picture because he was a smart super mutant. We found this picture online of this. It was just a bloke, but with green skin, wearing glasses, and he was quite handsome.
Yeah.
So presumably he came knocking on the vault door, looking like rejects from flipping the Addams Family.
Pretty much, yeah. It was literally like that. And well, anyway, to cut a long story short, yeah, they were fucking hideous. But they bargained their way in, and they got the chip basically. And they obviously did it forcefully because they're players, and ended up fighting the Brotherhood of Steel. But when they came out, all the people that they've wronged thus far in the Wasteland had tracked them down, and they had this big fight with, like the people from the wrestling match that they fucked over, some gangsters, like loads and loads of people were there. But as you correctly predicted, Owen, they got back to the vault, and the vault just took the chip and didn't let them in.
Considering what they look like, I kind of don't blame them at that point.
Well, yeah, exactly. They're monsters.
Was that racist of me? It might have been racist.
Calm down, mate. You'll feel it,
It was funny though because our friend Ryan, his character, she grew such massive teeth that she would need to roll charisma every time to see if anyone would understand her when she was speaking. But yeah, they ended the game with them basically trying to smash the vault door down, and yeah, that thing can withstand a nuclear blast, but yes, I threw the players a little bit of a bone, and they did get through and slaughter everyone inside.
No, not me. I went back to wrestling.
Yeah, he did, actually. That was pretty awesome. So, overall, that was pretty much the campaign, and it was a little mini one, 7 episodes, and I personally had a lot of fun with it. I don't know about you, Nick. What did you think of ICRPG now you've had a proper go?
I loved it. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. And I think ICRPG works really well online because it's quite low work, especially with an online kind of game. Flowed really well. It was easy. It was really, really good fun.
That was why I picked it, because you don't really have skills in this game. You just have stats.
Exactly.
And, different amounts of effort depending on what type of task you're doing, which is basically damage. But yeah, and I think for Fallout, and if anybody's like umming and ahhing about the online thing, I do think ICRPG is a very, very good choice. And it's a great book as well. And the Fallout hack is pretty cool because one of the big things about ICRPG is it comes with index cards and little paper minis. If you buy the book, you get all of that stuff free. And of course, the people that made the Fallout one also included a bunch of that stuff in there. So throughout the game, I had really cool fucking tokens for everything.
It was really nice. And it was awesome to be able to represent it on the little digital board. And it's just a fun. Even if you're not a Fallout fan, I would definitely say try it out because the world's really great.
One of the things I will say as well is if you got Roll20 and you're using that, use the line of sight stuff as well, because it's something that's very difficult to do in a tabletop but works really well virtually. And I made it so that they could only see what their characters could see in this horrible cave, and people would turn corners. And for example, there was a character called Jack Jackson, and he turned a corner and went, "What the fuck is that?"
Oh man. No one could see.
Yeah, because what it was, by the way, listeners, was a rad crab, and he just turned the corner and had seen it, and he's like, "What the fuck is that?" But because he was playing it so well, he didn't say. He did conform to the tropes of horror and just go, "Right, I've seen this, everyone." He just said, "What the fuck is that?" And nobody could see it at that time, so they were dashing madly into the dark.
If you're going to do a kind of like a mega dungeon thing, it will just take it up to the next level. It really will. There was a similar moment. It just creates these amazing moments. There was one bit when I was running the downtime scene for the Deadlands LARP, which I had to start doing over Roll20 because I moved countries, which made in-person a bit difficult, and they were exploring a crypt of some sort, and for some reason, I'm not too sure why, a character played by Johnny Sims, who's the writer of the very popular Magnus Archives podcast and a professional gamer now, went off on his own, turns into an area and is just confronted with this gigantic monster. He is playing a completely non-combat character. I immediately go to initiative. They are miles away and have no idea where he is. And it's just, for the next 2 minutes, there's a sound of just Johnny going, "I'm so sorry, everybody. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." It was a marvellous time. Yeah. Totally
That's what I'm talking about, man.
Boom. Successful.
Let's talk about a little system by a little guy called Monty Cook, and he made a little game called Cypher. And then Nick picked up. He's doing his own version of a sort of indie game called the Destiny game. Nick, tell us about your campaign.
So yeah, I've always wanted to. Well, I've been a Destiny fan and player since when it launched, Destiny 1. I've always loved the game, and the world's got a lot of depth to it, a lot of lore and stuff, and it's quite a deep world. And me and Harrison have chatted about it before, and Harris has just said, it's basically just a fantasy game in space, which it pretty much is. So that I thought, well, try it out as a RPG. I bet it would be quite interesting. So I thought I'd give it a go. Luckily, I found some support for it and was able to get some bits and pieces together as well. But yeah, I'm just going to kind of play an open world sandboxy Destiny game in the kind of as a nod to the video game, and hopefully use a lot of that deep lore and stuff that something like, even as a player like I play, don't really pay too much attention to, and kind of see if it really works in an RPG. It's pretty good. Well, I hope it works. I don't know at the moment.
Yeah, well, the system that you the Destiny hack is for is Numenera, but I believe it uses the same system as Cypher, isn't it? Cypher's just the open version.
That's exactly it. So yeah,
I enjoyed the first episode really a lot. The thing is that what it was cool is that it started off with a with like a cutscene that Nick did of this ghost. So there's these little floating robots called ghosts. They help you to respawn, to pick up items. Shit like this, and yeah, we had this little ghost floating around. Had the Destiny music on in the background. This ghost was floating around, sort of scanning this planet where a bunch of skeletons were laying around, and it was reviving them, and that was us, and it was bringing them back, infusing them with the light of the Traveller, which I don't know what that is at the moment. And yeah, that he was basically bringing us back to life, and yeah, we got our ghosts, so we have our own little personal tiny robot dudes. And we were brought back to life and told that we need to go and defend the last vestiges of humanity, kind of things. And we had to kind of make our own way back to the tower, which is like the main hub. And it was really, really cool and really atmospheric. Thanks, and what I like about Cypher is that it's more about clever descriptions and planning moves in that sense, rather than a bunch of
very cool
bloaty mechanics. And the support on Roll20 for Cypher is really fucking good as well.
Yeah, the sheet's lovely.
No, it sounds awesome, and it's great that Roll20 have it so well supported. I've been hearing what you've been saying about the Savage Worlds issues with the character sheets on there, and I mean, I when I started using Roll20, they didn't have character sheets or anything like that, and I found it reasonably easy because we just tried to simulate tabletop as quick as similarly as possible. So yeah, I should probably do a video of something for the Savage Worlds group or something, saying this is an easy way of doing it or whatever. Yeah,
because you got like macros and things like this. Because I know, Nick, you've run Destiny before in Savage Worlds, but I guess you kind of felt like Cypher was a good fit for it.
Well, yeah, I thought it would be. It's because it's quite a. It's a game about discovery, cipher especially, and a lot. It's a kind of rules light. Well, not rules. Yeah, it's pretty rules light for the GM. I mean, the GM doesn't roll at all for starters, and I thought it would be a nice fit for online play as well, because obviously we had to kind of change over to online. And I just, yeah, I think that the kind of world and stuff will lend itself really well to cipher. It's one of them kind of games where I think the descriptive and kind of joint storytelling and stuff's going to be really cool, especially with all the super special moves that all like Guardians can do and all that. But I really want to kind of bring another side to it than just the game where you go and obviously defend humanity, because at the end of the day they are people. So I'm hoping that there'll be, with the tower being kind of an open space, there's going to be a lot more than just doing good missions for humanity. There'll also be like, there's no reason why a Guardian who's got his day job might also have a side hustle, who knows, whatever. But it'd be quite interesting.
Awesome.
Well, that's what I was
kind
thinking,
of develops.
the character that I'm playing, like, he's an exo and doesn't necessarily remember his past, but he keeps getting these flashbacks of a horrible thing he did in his past. And I wanted him to be a pilot, but he's lost his ability to fly, and he's going to try and get it back. So I was thinking maybe
That's awesome.
when we're in the tower, I might try and take flying lessons or something.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, well, there'll be areas to do all of that. That's the thing. There should be bits everywhere for all different types of things that the players want to do, and that's how I hope it'll work.
But I stole a little quirk off of a character I once played with in an RPG, where he never does anything without doing his, in air quotes, pre-flight checks. And so he's all about safety. That's his thing. And so there's a point where I was trying to launch somebody up onto a higher surface, give him a boost, like by him stepping on my hands and me flinging him up. And I was doing all these pre-flight checks, and the other guy was getting really annoyed. I was like, got all your gear strapped on? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, assume the position. And he puts his hands above his head. And I'm like, okay. And I was doing all these weird checks just before I flung him upwards.
Oh, just let me fill out my health and safety report.
Yeah, it's literally like that.
Oh, it's brilliant. Percival's cracking.
That is a character that was begging for you to be voiced by your Alan Partridge impression, Harrison. I'm just saying.
I should definitely do that.
I have to say, of all the systems I've heard you guys review recently, Cypher is by far the most fascinating for me. I think it sounds like a really excellently done rules-like system.
It's cool, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think you would like it, Owen, because it's the thing is, it's all about sort of setting up your role and then rolling it. And there's also, Nick doesn't need to roll, so it's pretty good, because all you do is help players along.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's a little bit of a learning curve. If you've played a lot of more traditional systems for a while, like we have, but I think it's once you actually put it into practice, it was flowing quite quick towards the end, wasn't it, H? So
yeah, and but I actually don't think it's that different to everything that you know. But I think you kind of think about it differently because of the way the game's set up. All it is a D20 game, but you can change the difficulty using certain things. That's all it is, and it's no different than, say, D&D, because you've got this sword that gives you a plus bonus, but you might be at a minus because of the darkness or whatever. And the big difference, I feel, is that there's the GM intrusions and player intrusions. So the GM might intrude and be like, yeah, I'm gonna say that actually one we had in this game was that we opened this box and then we saw a timer going off. It was full of guns, and I was like, fuck, I'm gonna try and like stop the timer, basically, because we think it's a bomb. I'm gonna try and disarm it. And Nick basically, that was the GM intrusion. He's like, okay, you open the box, but I'm gonna say there's a timer going off on it, and if you take it, I get 2 XP and I get to give one to somebody else. But if I don't take it, then I lose the XP.
It costs you an XP. Costs you 1 XP.
It reminds me a lot of Exalted, the way that you have to sort of describe all the stuff descriptively, but so much simpler, because I love playing Exalted because everything was stunts and you were encouraged to make things as dramatic and wild as possible. But every time you wanted to do anything, you had to spend about 5 minutes looking it up in the rules, because everyone was at such a ridiculous power level and all the rules were so convoluted.
Well, if you want something like that, Owen, that's not overly convoluted,
it's actually playable, yeah. Yeah, that sounds brilliant.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, like all damage is kind of just put into really broad brackets and weaponry as well. It's just small, medium, large, and that's it. And it's a set amount of damage every time. But it's the flavour and the trappings that make it interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really enjoying it. We'll have more on that next time. But basically, all we did in this game was we kind of fought and explored our way back to the tower, and then we're going to become proper guardians. Ooh.
There you go. Sold. Bought it.
Oh, amazing. Right, well,
there you
thanks.
Go.
Well, Monty Cook,
there you go.
we deserve a cut of
Monty
that.
Cook,
Right?
they owe you.
Yeah, can we
you
have a
owe
bit of
them
commission
one.
for that?
Yeah.
That's living proof that we sell extra games via this podcast. So, Monty, we're going to come a knocking. We don't want to have to send the boys around, but...
Oh, no. Don't want to send the skeleton army round.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
They're multiplying. So, Owen, you tell me what you've been playing this week.
I'm running a Deadlands Hell on Earth game called The Toxic Sisters, which is about an all-female biker gang in the wasted West. I'll say more about Hell on Earth when we talk about Deadlands. But they are coming towards the end of their campaign. It is based on The Harvest, which is a very big plot point from classic Hell on Earth. But I'm redoing it. I'm doing it my way. I'm giving the players a lot more agency in it, actually, because the main battle of The Harvest, when it came around in the setting, you were there, but mostly you were staying alive while all the dramatic events happened around you. And there was a reason for that, because they were trying to get past it quickly onto the main bit of that adventure, which was the journey to Banshee. I'll talk more about that when we talk about Deadlands Lost Colony later. Anyway, they're moving towards that, and it's going to be amazing. And the last thing that happened was one of them tried to do a vision quest to look into the hunting grounds, which is sort of the spirit world, and try and find out where the servitor, which is a servitor, which is sort of a bad guy who has decided to dedicate their lives to one of the really big bad guys, the Dark Gods, as it were, where this particular servitor of famine was, and then that particular servitor of famine appeared to them, and then famine appeared to them and said, "Oi, go away. You're annoying me," basically.
I've got to be honest,
I don't unsatiable hunger.
Shut up, Owen. Shut up. Right.
Yep.
I've got to be honest, I don't know what any of this means. I'm sure it'll come up later, so stay tuned. But I don't know what a servitor of famine is. I don't even know what a Deadlands is.
Do you want me to start this again and just do a really quick version of this?
That's fine.
Would that be good?
What about female? What's a female? No, go on. Yeah, do a
female,
do a quicker version.
Yeah, okay. So, I'm running a few things right now. I'm slaying a few things right now.
Nice.
Firstly, I run a Deadlands Hell on Earth game, which is sort of a post-apocalyptic thing, and that's going very well. My campaign's called The Toxic Sisters, and it's basically an all-female biker gang in Deadlands post-apocalyptic future.
Nice.
Very cool.
Nice.
And I'm playing in an ETU game when I get the flipping chance, which is run by my friend Dan Brown, who you, Harrison, will remember from when you were playing with us Pantheon Towers.
Yes, I know Dan very well. I mean, he's a very good guy, but he writes a terrible book, I'll put it that way.
Oh, the Da Vinci Code, it's rubbish.
Yeah, I'm sure he's never heard that before.
Like every day, I think, pretty much, because he spells it the same as well.
Take that, Dan.
Yeah, haha. But yeah, he's running a really cool ETU game, which is actually, funnily enough, also set in the world of Deadlands. He's plonked it out of one universe and into another and working that together, and it's very cool.
Well, so it's kids at school shooting each other. Don't they call that America?
Oh, God.
Not comment on that one. But no,
good idea.
It's set in a version of Deadlands that is sort of the future of the LARP that I ran, where the hunting grounds has closed, so there's no magic and stuff around, or not really. So it's very much still ETU, just more kind of in that, with that thing as a potential backstory.
That's East Texas University, for those who don't know.
Yes, exactly, East Texas University, which is another amazing Savage World setting. And I, of course, ran 2 games at SavageCon, which are fantastic. And I apologise for not sending in a letter to you guys about the awesome moments that happened, but unfortunately I forgot.
Well, one of your players actually sent in a a moment from the game. It's an upcoming setting that you're working on, isn't it? Called Spies.
Absolutely, yeah. Supernatural and Paranormal International Espionage Service. So it's sort of, X-Files meets James Bond, basically, is the idea.
When that comes out, do you think that you'll be releasing a supplement for it with where you play as a countercultural terror organisation called Lies?
When I heard you say that, I just thought because I actually have quite a few already built up of sort of the evil organisations, and they all abbreviate to things like that. There's the Messenger of Tani Hotep, who are basically international crime ring of mummies.
That is awesome.
And there, of course, the abbreviation there is Moth. But yeah, there has to be something called Lies now. I have to do that. There's no two ways about that.
Fantastic.
Maybe if you back the Kickstarter at a decent level, you could also be the head of Lies.
Don't push your luck. Look.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot. You'd need money for that, wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, running games at SavageCon was friggin' amazing, and it always is, because you get such a great group of people in the Savage Worlds community, whether or which, and doing it online meant we had people from all over the place, which was just awesome.
So we also like to, talk about gets on this. I know we're running long on the what you've been saying here, so I'm just going to just quickly mention a couple of things I bought this in the last couple of weeks. So I've been pretty obsessed with Tunnels and Trolls recently. That's my latest obsession. And this game is like it's very big in Japan. Aside from Sword World, it's like the second biggest RPG there. And they've just recently released a book of the Tunnels and Trolls Japanese adventures. Not all of them, but like a selection from their magazines and stuff.
Oh, very cool.
And they've been translated into English, obviously. And I've been reading the TNT Adventures Japan. It is fucking awesome.
Any good?
Just to give one example, the cool thing about this book is that TNT works really well with solo adventures as well. So if you want to do that, and play RPGs by yourself during lockdown, that's something you could do. And it is pretty cool like that. But the first adventure that's in the book is pretty fucking funny, because there's this guy who gifts his daughter a necklace for her birthday that can help her transform into a cat. She opens the gift, right? She's so excited, she puts it on instantly, then gets scared that she's become a cat, runs away, and as she's running, a troll sees the fluffy cat, takes a liking to it, and takes her back to his lair. And so you have to rescue this girl that's transmogrified into a cat from the lair of a troll. And to get in, there's an air conditioner that's been installed in the rocks of the cave, so you can shrink yourself down to a tiny size and jump through the fan of the air conditioner.
Nice.
That's so cool.
It's bizarre,
That's
man.
fantastic.
It's really weird.
That sounds
I was
fun.
I expect no less from Japan, to be perfectly honest.
Well,
Don't you read and understand Japanese anyway? I thought you're a proper weebo. Or are you just one of those part-time weebos?
I'm a part-time weebo. I don't even like anime anymore, Owen, so yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the fault of that other podcast of yours, wasn't it? Ruined it.
Yeah. But yeah, so the thing I really like about Tunnels and Trolls is that there's this kind of cool combat system where you just roll your weapon and all of your combat adds, which is like your bonuses, basically, from your stats. You roll all of that into a big pool, and then the enemies do it. And the loser, they basically have to... They're the ones that get hit in that round, and the amount that they get hit is the winner minus the loser. And
That's
they take that many hit points, and you divide it between the monsters. And if the players lose the round, they take all the damage and they divide it up between them, so they can be trying to save each other, trying to take the minimal amount of damage, that type of thing. And it's quite cool the way it's got a lot of strategy to it, but essentially small battles are handled exactly the same way big battles are, so you could do huge fucking fights in the game very easily. So it seems fucking awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's cool. And but that is about it for what we've been slaying this week. Sorry this one ran a bit long, but let's talk about some Deadlands. That's why we got Owen on here.
That sounds good.
Main. Subject. Magic. Main. Subject. Tokyo. Main. Subject.
give us the elevator pitch of what Deadlands is. Is it good? Can it be used as a wall insulation?
Well, yes. So Deadlands then is, let's see now, it goes back to the early 90s, I believe. But as an elevator pitch, it is cowboys and weird stuff.
What?
It's the Weird West. Imagine that H.P. Lovecraft had written Blazing Saddles.
Okay, right.
That's, at least when I'm running it, that's what it's like.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, when you say weird stuff, what do you mean? Is it like things like
So,
DP?
I mean, at a base level, it's
Shut up.
it's things that go bump and not. God Almighty!
Sorry, Chloe, carry on, mate.
It's all right. I know. I don't know how you manage it. You have to put up with them every week,
know.
mate.
Do you know what it is? Yeah. Do you know what it is? Why I'm being a bit more silly than I usually am. It's because I didn't have to produce this episode. This is Owen's episode where he's talking about Deadlands, and I feel like it's a bit like my week off.
Yeah, you're doing
to
my
write
job.
a load of stuff down. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's a horror setting in the Wild West, basically.
Amazing.
Put it simply.
So, but before we get into actually what the game is like, let's talk about how we got to the one we're at the moment. Because the current version of Deadlands is Deadlands Deluxe, Reloaded for Savage Worlds Deluxe, right? But how did
well, technically yes, but the current version will be in about a week and a half or so. The brand new Deadlands: The Weird West for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition.
Nice.
Because they are currently kickstartering it now, and they're at 400,000
versions
at the moment, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, dollars.
Yeah,
for the
so the Kickstarter's doing extremely well, and we will get on to that at the end and how to do it. But do you know sort of like the history of the game and how it came to be?
Yeah, I mean it's a very long history. It started in '94 when Shane and I believe he worked in a partnership to begin with, got together and formed this basic sort of setting of a world an alternative history, more to the point, world where things are exactly as we know them up until about 1863, and then things go a little strange at that minor blip in American history called the Battle of Gettysburg, which, I mean, in fairness to America, they take a few things like the Battle of Gettysburg and so on and make them really, really important, but they don't really have much history to go with, if we're being honest. It's not like us who have thousands and thousands of years and a castle on every street corner. We got to let the Americans have that. But and then history diverges, and things get a little bit strange. But when it first started, it was just this very simple book with that very with that iconic image on the cover, and they didn't reveal who that iconic image was until way later on. So there was a lot of planning going into the setting from the very beginning, and only little bits were sort of revealed as the splat books came out, which in those days was the way of doing things. If you've played any of the old White Wolf stuff, Werewolf and Vampire and all that, the sheer volume of books that were released then was astronomical. And in a way it kind of had to be, because that's the only way you could really make money in the role-playing game industry, was to be completely prolific.
So originally it was just called Deadlands: The Weird West. It was its own system, right?
Yes. Yeah, it did. And the system was based around playing cards and dice. It had a very cool character creation system which involved you drawing cards out the deck. This, of course, was back in the day when you always rolled for character creation. You didn't have point-buy systems, really, because it was 94 then. The storyteller system isn't even out yet at that point, I don't think. Vampire didn't really have a system out until 95, I think, but I could be wrong. And yeah, you then had your stats and your skills, and your stats determined what dice you rolled, and your skills determined how many of those dice you rolled. So, say you had a D8 in agility, and you had 4 points of shooting. If you had to do a shooting roll, you would roll 4d8, and you need to get a success. which would be different depending on the target number, and you had specific target numbers in the book, going from I can't remember what the word was for very easy, but I believe it went all the way up to onerous, because everything was in kind of Western slang. You didn't have shooting, you had shootin', with an N and a apostrophe after it, etc.
Yeah, like I remember it said in the original Deadlands, instead of just making heroes, it said making heroes.
Exactly, yeah.
It's cool, it's edgy.
And then they had this amazing idea for wizards, as it were, the sort of wizard variation, which was called hucksters. And these were people who got power from demons by imagining a game of cards they played with them. And the actual full-on lore is actually really quite complicated, because they're not actually doing that. They're just sort of having a battle of wits. But a huckster envisaged it as a game of poker. And all the spells that you cast in the original system, you had to actually play poker against the games master.
Oh God!
And how well you won by resulted in how powerful the spell was, which was really cool, but a bit on the slow side.
So he went from that version of the game to eventually becoming the sort of flagship setting for Savage Worlds, right?
Indeed. And Savage Worlds itself came out of Deadlands via a kind of roundabout route, because, as you know, as I've already said, Deadlands was first its own system and its own little setting, and then Shane, who is also very into war games, created a war game out of it called The Great Rail Wars, which was based on one of the sort of ongoing plots of the Deadlands setting.
So is Starlight Express based in the same universe?
No.
The Great Train Wars, the Great Rail Wars. A bunch of trains fighting
Transforming
each other.
trains that have big fights, yeah. But they have to stay on the rails.
Oh shit, here comes Thomas.
With the big punch.
The next stop is death.
You're not going to let me finish this now, are you?
Sorry.
It's only fair. I interrupted you a lot in the last section. You interrupt me now. What goes around comes around. I don't care. I'm just a human being with feelings.
Here comes Thomas. You're fucked.
Here comes Thomas. Yeah, I think definitely an adventure where you're taking on a theatre company of mad scientists who are running this sort of production all on steam-powered roller skates. That would be awesome.
That's also
Steampunk
pretty
roller
fucking
disco.
good. Right, so
Yeah, that would be cool.
Deadlands starts off, it's its own system. It uses cards, it uses poker chips. Then Shane Hensley goes, hang on, nobody's playing this. Nobody, right? So I'm going to make it an open system called Savage Worlds, and a lot of that stuff is left over. That's why we still use initiative cards for Savage Worlds.
Bit more complicated than that, like I say. They created this war game called the Great Rail Wars and had a much more simplified version of the Deadlands system in it, where instead of having a whole number of dice represented by the stat and so on, you would have just one dice, and you would also roll a wild die, which would always be a d6.
Just one you found outside caught with a little net, like a wild dog.
Exactly. Yeah, a wild one, just a wild one. You go out there, you catch yourself a wild dice, and tame it and use it.
Lasso
in the
it.
thing. And they found out it was a really good system, and Shane realised actually this would be much better as a tabletop system for what we're doing with Deadlands, and that's where Savage Worlds came about. And from that, Deadlands got converted to Deadlands Reloaded.
So that's the one that's currently out, but now they're kickstarting the new one, and we'll get onto the new one later. But now we've gone through the sort of history. Tell us about the world. So we know this is a world where it's Western, right? But there's ghosts, right? And also there's people with big steampunk weapons. So tell us about the world of Deadlands. What is it and why?
Exactly, yeah. So in the core Deadlands setting, because there are several other Deadlands settings now, but in the core one, which is set in the Weird West, as they call it, the timeline for it started in 73, and it is now 84. It will be in the new version.
1984.
It's like 1884.
Right.
Like I say, history is exactly the same up until the Battle of Gettysburg, or as far as you know, it's exactly the same. There's some stuff that went on in the Dark Ages, but we'll come back to that. But at the Battle of Gettysburg, things go slightly weird. Apparently, people who were there at the battle say they saw the dead soldiers get up and keep on fighting.
Ghosts.
They saw strange phenomenon happening. They saw
Zomboid.
they saw people dying in just excruciating ways, and this area of fear spreading over the battlefield. But no one really believes that, of course.
Ghosts.
Yeah, so ghosts, and zombies, lots and lots of zombies.
Shit.
And then, yeah, exactly. And then, as far as I remember, the Battle of Gettysburg does not go the other way, because in reality, of course, that was when the Confederacy got completely destroyed, as it were. And it's not that that the Confederacy win, but because it goes on longer, the Union don't have the power to pursue the Confederacy after it, and so both sides go away and the war carries on for a lot longer. And there are ghosts as well. There are basically any kind of horror you can imagine. Any sort of horrific creature from whatever, it's going to be there somewhere. And if it's not, you can put it in yourself, because that's the way it's built.
Nice.
So the Civil War goes on for a long time, and in Deadlands Reloaded and the original in fact, I think in the original Deadlands setting, when you played, the Civil War was still going on when the timeline started. But in Deadlands Reloaded, the Civil War was over, and it had been a truce, and the Confederacy and the Union still existed, and stayed that way all the way up until the world gets destroyed in 2084, which we'll talk about later, of course. But but now things have changed. There has been a dramatic event in the Deadlands universe that has reshaped time, and now for the upcoming Deadlands setting and all future things, the Confederacy now lose the Civil War, but a little bit later than they did beforehand. Most importantly, slavery is definitely a thing of the past. Stop moving my squeaky ass chair. That is a good idea. Why don't I get off this chair?
Right, anyway, yeah, listeners, you're going to hear Owen's horrible, horrible chair.
I'm going to get off this chair and I'm going to sit on the floor so that you don't have this problem anymore. All right?
Fucking hell, that was the worst noise I've ever heard in my life.
You happy now, you bastard? Taking me off my chair. You okay?
All right, so...
Right.
So we know what the landscape looks like. Why?
Yeah.
You mentioned something called ghost rock, right?
Let's talk about that.
Is it the deceased spirit of a rock? Or is it drugs, as Nick suggests? What is it?
No. I don't know about drugs. I mean, there's got to be some adventure somewhere that someone should write about what happens when you snort ghost rock. I'd love to hear that.
Crushed up.
But,
crush it with your pint and then scoop
powder it and snort it. What
only
could go
ghosts
wrong?
can do that.
A new super fuel gets discovered in 68, I believe, 68, when a massive earthquake which rips apart the west coast of America, particularly California, and turns it into just this sort of mazer, or series of mazes in amongst channels of water. And in the rock there, they discover this new super fuel, which people call ghost rock, because when you burn it, it screams, or it sounds like it's screaming. Now, some crazy people say the reason it screams is that the ghost rock itself is made of the souls of the damned, and you're actually burning and sending them back to hell every time you do that. But that's nonsense. Any real scientist, of course, knows that it's just there's a lot of porous air holes in ghost rock, which is why it burns so well and why you can use it to power your steampunk inventions. And that's where the screaming noise come from, obviously.
Right. So the type of... is ghost rock responsible for all of the zomboids and ghosts?
No, it is another side effect of all the zomboids and ghosts. What is responsible for it all is, demons is a word we would use. The Native American word is Manitou, which is a word for an evil spirit, and that's the word that's used in Deadlands.
Well, like two men, like a man or two.
like a man or two, yeah,
Manatee.
exactly. It's just a man or two, no problems.
Sounds lovely.
The chief man or two, or men or two, are known as the Reckoners.
Shit.
And they are four sort of big evil gods that live at the absolute heart of hell, or the Deadlands, as they're called in the spirit world, or hunting grounds, to use the North American term, the Native American term. And they are fashioned themselves after the four horsemen of the apocalypse. So you've got a death, you've got a famine, you've got a war, and you've got yourself a pestilence. And they're in the Deadlands, in the middle of hell, hoping to one day leave and come out onto our world. But to do that, they have to make the world the same as the horrible place where they live. To do that, the world has to be transformed by fear. It has to be literally terror-formed, and that pun is in the book.
I hate you. I hate you. I hate you, Shane.
It's and that's done literally by them making people more scared. And what could be a better place to spread fear?
Boo!
Yes, like that. What could be a better way to spread fear than in the huge open frontiers of the American West during this period? Because, I mean, if you've seen any Western, or if you've played Red Dead Redemption, or if you've even read the Little House on the Prairie books, you'll know you've got these enormous open spaces between the villages, small communities that know each other but don't know much else, and people, meeting on the range and sharing stories over campfires is where sort of all the kind of lore comes from. And so it's a perfect place for sort of things that lurk in the night to be outright there lurking, but so far away that you don't actually see them, because the Reckoners, you see, learnt their lesson in the Dark Ages. Back in the Dark Ages, apparently, they threw all kinds of nasty things at people to try and make the world more scared, and people got wise and thought, right, well, if there's zombies and stuff, I'm gonna ruddy kill them. They get jaded and they get out there and killed them.
The Reckoners,
and so they were able to seal the Reckoners.
So the Reckoners, they've been trying since the 1400s.
Yes, but before that,
and they've achieved nothing.
No, because in the 1400s, the Reckoners got sealed off. The Reckoners existed, and bad guys existed all the time, but in the 1400s, a bunch of native shamans got together to seal off what they call the hunting grounds, or the spirit world, or whatever you like to call it, and magic and all that from the world. And so from then up until 1863, everything stays non-magical and exactly the way we know it in history, as it were.
So what's the brand of horror is specifically like an American type one?
How do you mean?
Well, because it's like you might be cruising through the Deadlands, the American there, and then you go into somebody's house and Wendigo, jackalope.
Well, the whole idea is that it depends how you do it. I mean, as a GM, you can run it any way you like. Certainly in in Deadlands Reloaded, it's more considered that you should that the horror shouldn't be out there in the open on the surface. You say your posse just roll up into a town and everything seems normal, but something's just slightly off.
Okay.
You can't tell what. Maybe you've got a whole bunch of people gambling furiously in a corner of the saloon, and they've been playing this same game of poker without sleeping, without eating, without anything for like 2 days straight, but they still seem okay.
So for example, instead of having like the skeleton jump out of the cupboard and go boo, what the skeleton does is he actually pokes his head out and goes shh, and then pops his head back in, and then
more like that kind of idea.
And then you check the cupboard and there's no skeleton there at all.
Exactly. You get the idea.
You play on the tension. I like it. Like, you go into a town and everything seems normal, but all of a sudden there's something not quite right that you can't put your finger on, and it kind of intensifies that suspenseful dread.
Now, I do know things are slightly changing that way around that, according to the new book that's coming out. I know a lot more is being revealed to the players than was in Reloaded, because in Deadlands Reloaded you didn't find out what was really going on as a player. You just found out this is what appears to be going on, and rumours you might have heard, and then the Marshal, which is the name given to the GM, finds out what's really going on in the Marshal's Guide. In the new version, I believe the players are going to know a little bit more than they used to, but I can't say too much about that.
They know who the skeleton belongs to.
Yes, that. They might very well know whose skeleton it is.
All right, so I guess we've got a good picture of what the Deadlands world looks like then, right? I think it sounds great. All right, I think Shane Hensley and all the boys back at Pinnacle have done a great job on that. Especially the skeleton thing. I just think that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or did I make that up? I can't remember.
And as you may have noticed, Deadlands has several other settings, and I know it can seem from the outset, as I think you said last time, like it's just plonking the word Deadlands in front of a setting and putting cowboys into it.
It's because that's what it is.
The lore of the Deadlands world is really quite intense and quite huge, and all these things do slot into it in a really brilliant way.
So you got Deadlands. You got Deadlands Dark Ages, which is Deadlands in the medieval times, and for some reason there's guns, and it is actually pretty fucking good. You got Deadlands Lost Colony, which is Deadlands in space. You got Deadlands Kids, which is Deadlands in high school. You don't. Do you not?
You don't have Deadlands Kids.
It's like those 90s cartoons,
Kids,
you know what I mean? Where it's like Tom and Jerry Kids or Flintstones Kids.
I mean, I love the idea of that as a setting. I'd run
Deadlands
it,
Kids, yeah.
but I don't think it's official yet.
Yeah,
That's homebrew, though.
Nick, if you were to do a spin-off of Deadlands, what would it be?
Oh, God. Deadlands Croydon?
What, so it's just your hometown in the 90s?
Yeah. And there's Ghost Rock.
What could be any scarier than Croydon as it currently is? Let's be honest now.
Instead of getting the usual acid attack that you get in Croydon, somebody throws a living skeleton at you.
Or it's a Ghost Rock powered acid attack. Yeah.
So this whole thing about it screaming and stuff. Does that mean that, like, if you've got like a Ghost Rock powered pistol, when you're shooting, it goes ow 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 every time you shoot it off?
Yeah. It's like you're just. Ah!
Yeah,
I love it.
That's a good touch. Nice one,
Or
Shane.
Deadlands.
But yeah, no. For seriously though, he does just slap the name on any old thing and then ham fists it into the universe. But whatever. It's his setting, it's his company. He can do what he wants.
If you do believe that, I would seriously recommend you have a closer look at the setting books because they are all things that have been planned from a long time ago. The Cackler storyline, which is what launched the Dark Ages setting, was something that Shane wrote way back in the early 90s as potentially it was originally going to be a movie, and then it was going to be the base of the TV series that Xbox were commissioning them for, but then of course that TV platform fell apart, and so eventually they released it as a graphic novel.
No, I trust you. I'm fairly certain that isn't the case. I know Shane, he's a good guy, man, but I just like to rag on him, that's all. But thanks for ruining my fun.
You're a troll. That's what you do.
Okay,
that's what I have to do.
So
he's kind of my boss, so I kind of have to defend him on this one.
Shut up.
Okay, shut up now.
Right, so character options. Let's talk about that. We know about the world, right?
Okay.
It's the old west. There's spooky shit. There's steampunk shit powered by Ghost Rock. Shotguns that scream in the night. But what are the character options? Because the thing is, this is probably, in Savage Worlds terms, it's got the highest amount of classes and magical backgrounds and shit like this in the world.
Yeah. It has the closest thing, I think, in a way, to a class system because in terms of arcade backgrounds, and that's because I think it comes from Deadlands, the original flavour Deadlands, as it were, which was based on a class system, I believe. Could be wrong there, but yeah, you have 5 core magical backgrounds in the original Deadlands Reloaded, as it were. Things have changed a bit now, and they've added a few more on as well on top as a result of stretch goals to this Kickstarter. But you've got hucksters being the main ones that I talked about earlier, who are these wizard types. They're closest to your wizard, I suppose, who can who deal with the devil, literally play cards against demons in order to get magical power. And every time they cast a spell, playing cards appear in their hands, which is obviously something weird, and so if you do that around people, you're going to get lynched. It's the Weird West. So instead, they carry playing cards around with them all the time and disguise themselves as gamblers who are constantly fidgeting with cards so that they can hide these magical cards that appear in their hand when they cast spells. Then you got your Blessed, who are sort of your cleric type, as it were, who are often, sort of your stereotypical trope is going to be the sort of whiskey priest, giving his good old-fashioned fire and brimstone sermon on a Sunday morning to the packed village, as it were. But it could be anyone, even someone who doesn't really have a particular faith, as it were, who has been chosen for whatever reason by the powers of good in order to conduct miracles in the world. You've then got your weird scientists or mad scientists, as they are all literally mad in this world, because ghost rock, believe it or not, sends you crazy. The fumes get in. That's what they say. The fumes get into your head and send you mad. And part of it is the fumes. Part of it is also maybe has something to do with the fact there are literally demons whispering the ideas for inventions into your ears. And they create these awesome steampunk inventions, and to simulate the inventions, we now use the PowerPoint system and the arcane background system in order to do that, and you generate them as powers.
Yeah, I had a character in a Deadlands one-shot I ran once who he had the bolt power, but obviously in Savage Worlds, and in any game, indeed, you can trap it and sort of give it your own little flavour to the spell. And he used a cutlery gun.
Nice.
So it's shot like forks and knives at people. That's fantastic.
Yeah. He just jammed fistfuls of cutlery in there and then blasted it at people with the power of Ghost Rock. It was awesome.
By the power of Ghost Rock.
Incredible. We had someone who literally created steampunk pokeballs in the Deadlands LARP by trapping the summon ally power.
Very good.
So cool. I said by the trapping you had to actually defeat one of the creatures he wanted to summon first, but then when he'd done that, and if he was on sufficient rank, he could summon it using his steampunk pokeball thing. So that was quite fun, but it gave him a bigger range of things he could summon. Was the upside. And then there was Native American shamans who call on the powers of the nature spirit, which sounds on the surface similar to the powers of Blessed, but they have lots of different trappings and things going on there. And access to powers that no one else does. They're the only ones that can shape change, for example.
Cool.
Who can change into animals, etc.
Am I right in saying the last arcane background is monkey?
No. Monkey style, maybe, because it is martial arts.
Oh, sorry, I wrote it down wrong in my notes. It's supposed to be monk.
Monk, yeah. Close. So the idea being that that someone who has not just knows how to fight well, but really mastered the essence of the chi inside them,
they can do fireballs.
Is able to do proper sort of wuxia, I believe is what you call it. Is that right? Wuxia.
Sort of, yeah. And they can do Hadoukens.
Stuff.
Dragon Punch.
Well, you can, yes. Essentially, martial arts is usually a very non-obvious style of magic. It was much harder to do because it was based on the old superpower system, which, as you know, you had to buy your whole skill up, as it were, for each thing you wanted to do. But the upside was no one could ever really tell you were doing magic. It just looked like you were really, really good. There was, however, a hindrance you could take, which meant that, you could do actual Hadoukens and stuff like that. Nice. But then, then people could be, people burn you for being a witch if they see you doing it. And there are some more other arcane backgrounds that have come out now.
Oh, God.
But you can find out about them in the Kickstarter, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so.
Unless you want me to talk about them now, I can, but we've got time. Do you want me to talk about them now?
No.
Didn't think so.
No, but in addition to just those arcane backgrounds, you don't have to take one, although most people end up doing so. But you can just be like a gunslinger or a prostitute or whatever, right?
And the beautiful thing about it being Savage Worlds is you can, of course, customize it any way you want. And actually, some of the nastiest characters that were in the LARP I ran, were not magical at all. Someone who built a really hardcore gunslinger was absolutely lethal.
Nice.
Because you can one of the main edges you've got now is called hammer fanning, which is, have you ever seen one of those old westerns where you see the cowboy pull the trigger and then fan the hammer of the gun back so he can release 6 shots very quickly?
Yep.
Is your next question going to be, do you live in the world? Of course I've seen
Well, this is the thing. Well, this is the thing. I don't know. You told me yourself you've seen about 10 movies in your lifetime.
They're all westerns, though.
That would make sense, yeah. But yeah, that is what hammer fanning means. And essentially turns what is usually a 1 rate of fire pistol into a 6 rate of fire machine gun, essentially. Which if you're really good with a pistol and you've, say, loaded it with Ghost Rock powered explosive rounds,
Oh, nice.
you're doing 6 shots on raises. That's 4d6 in a small burst template. Get to legendary level and you can add an edge called Right Hand of the Devil, which turns your gun into a relic, so it does an extra d6 damage. So now that's 5d6 six times.
Jeez.
Imagine
Yeah,
that.
it's
Imagine
insane.
seeing like the classic scene where two people are dueling in a Western movie, and suddenly one of the guys fans the hammer and his gun's just screaming.
Goblin, 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 goblin.
So, in terms of we've gone over the world, we've gone over character options, right? In terms of mechanics, this is pretty close to Savage Worlds' core, right? And
Yes.
so, if you could quickly, in under 2 minutes, describe
Yes.
the mechanics of the game.
Well, it is the new system certainly, and the old system is going to be very similar, to Savage Worlds Deluxe or Suede or Suade, however you want to pronounce it, for the new version. And they've actually made a lot of effort in the new version, as far as I'm aware, to make it a lot more open to being generic. So if you just want to run cowboys and ghosts, or cowboys and zombies and whatever, you can do that with the new version of Deadlands. You don't have to get into that whole lore and enormous timeline and world, as it were. It does add a few extra little things into it, such as the those particular magic backgrounds, such as the dueling rules. There's specific rules for traveling long distances on horseback, as you're probably going to have to do, etc., etc. And other little things like that simulate the American West, as it were.
I will stress that the old ones as well are pretty close to Savage Worlds. And if you want to learn about the mechanics, just go to the our episode that we did on Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. The old ones as well, you can kind of pick and choose bits. If you want to run a Weird West game, which is what we did, we played Dark Tower, which is kind of similar, and all of the classes and that you can just pike them right out the book.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
But now that we're here, right? You guys all know what Deadlands was, right, and what it is, and why you should go out and buy it. But let's talk about the new Kickstarter, because Shane Hensley's changing it, right? And he's changing it. He's releasing a new version for Adventure Edition. I did Kickstart it, and then I changed my pledge and didn't Kickstart it, and now I'm thinking I might do it again. What's the haps? What's the dizzle?
Mechanic-wise, obviously, it's been reset so that it works along with the new Suede mechanics, which is in essence not a huge difference to Suede itself, but some of the big mechanics, particularly stuff like the long distance riding and stuff like that, has changed quite a bit. You've also got an entirely new plot point campaign, which, rather than the previous ones, because they've released 4 plot point campaigns for the previous Deadlands Reloaded, in which you were going up against the 4 really sort of big human bad guys, as it were, in the world. They're now making it much more sort of on a big adventures on a smaller scale, as it were. The plot point campaign that's coming out now is all set in just the one county, and it's about all the strange things going on there and so on. So we're looking much more about trying to get back to what Deadlands was originally, which is that whole spaghetti western with a real feel of horror on top of it.
And it's got sort of it's going to focus a bit more on personal horror, right?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more of that into it, is the idea. There was a slight feeling that Deadlands became a bit too camp over the last last while, and more trying to get back into that kind of slightly darker, slightly more you're up against something more powerful than you could possibly imagine feel to it, and more of that whole it's very lonely out there on the plains.
So now when you see the skeleton leaning out of the cupboard and going shh, it's like it's got your dad's hat on.
Exactly. Nailed it.
Right. That is eerie, isn't it, Nick? That's a good idea.
Oh yeah.
I'm copywriting that idea. It's called Skeletons in the Cupboard.
Fantastic, yeah. I should actually point out, I am not officially part of the Deadlands team or part of the Pinnacle team. I'm just a guy who's played a lot of Deadlands and has had a couple of little things published for it, that's all. So I can't speak in an official capacity to these things.
Yeah, but you and Shane, these your boy, man. You guys are good. You're good friends.
Not really. I've just talked to him a few times over email and stuff like that. I've never met him.
Would
But
you
he's a
like him to
fabulous
start
human being as far as
returning
I'm
your
aware.
calls more? Should I?
Yeah,
We'll ask him
that'd be
now.
nice.
Shane, if you're listening, return Owen's calls, all right? Because that's out of order
probably
what you
give
did to lead him
give
on
him a
like
call
that.
first. But actually, no. I will tell you something, which is that when, like I said, I ran a LARP set in the Deadlands universe for 3 years, and at the end of it, for the big finale, I got all the players who had been playing in the past but didn't play anymore to record a little sort of good luck message on a video and played them all. And I asked Shane, would you record a little video saying, as the creator, good
And he
luck
went,
on that?
fuck
And he
off.
did it. No, he went and did it, as did Matt Cutter, who is the the Deadlands brand manager, which was just freaking awesome to play to people in front of that. And they didn't have to do that.
That is
they,
cool.
They took the time out, and it is really decent thing to do as far as I was concerned.
So that Kickstarter sounds good, and there's a lot of actually cool stretch goals and shizzle on there too.
Yeah, they've unlocked quite a lot of pretty cool stuff now. I mean, there is still always that issue that that us Brits have, or us non-Americans have, of the shipping prices. But the amount of stuff that's getting into the physical thing now, it's got to the point where I think it's probably getting worth backing the really high levels rather than just because a lot of other Kickstarter campaigns from America, I often will back the digital one and then I'll buy the physicals from Leisure Games or Orcs Nest, which are 2 London game stores, which I'm sure you've heard of in this podcast.
That's kind of what I intend to do, because it was working out £100 for the lot, and I was like, listen, you know me. Okay, I've got loads of money, but that is too much for me. I was also thinking, because I own the books already, and I was like, man, but I don't know. I'm considering it now. I'm considering it. I keep going back.
Well,
and
I
forth.
think one option as well. I mean, it's not going to. If people do this, it won't go towards sort of unlocking more stretch goals. But for example, if you and Nick both wanted the physical stuff, you could back it at the high tier, and Nick could add an extra section on all as add-ons. So and then you'd split the shipping costs between the two of you.
Thing is, though, guys, I backed the Deadlands Kickstarter a few years ago at quite a high level, and I thought that was the Deadlands. So what is this now?
That was Deadlands. That was a reissue of Deadlands Classic that they brought out,
Right.
with the other Pop Point campaign.
that was the one where you spent £70, and the only stretch goal you got was bookmarks. Am I right?
Well, it's just like, do I spend a lot of money again? Like, I feel a bit like, why did I get the last one if there was going to be a new one? But never mind.
I actually do agree with you in some aspects, because if you want to do more personal, more down to earth horror with Deadlands, that's pretty fucking easy with the one that already exists. And Deadlands Classic is still good, and also Deadlands Reloaded is really good.
There's an awful lot of stuff in Classic.
I would say that if you don't already own Deadlands, then it's definitely worth kickstarting. But if you do, maybe only kickstart it if you're a mega fan.
Yeah.
Having read, I can't say much about it, but having read what I've got of the new rules, I would say it is definitely worth getting in there, at least at a digital level. And some of the physical stretch goals they've got coming out now are very, very cool. The oversized deck and the Ghost Rock counters in particular, I'm really tempted to up myself to a full high roller pledge.
The oversized what?
Oh, isn't that what we got with the last box set of the new rules that we just kickstarted?
Yeah,
as well?
so Adventure Edition, yeah.
There's a
I spent too much money on Savage
They've made a
Worlds recently.
Deadlands Pacific one, which I think is quite awesome.
Yeah, no, I do agree, and I also think, like, I've already got the Deadlands Reloaded, but then if you really want it for Adventure Edition, and all the old books already work with Adventure Edition, you could get the new one. But I do think the idea of what they're focusing on for people that have trouble making up their own stories in a game, is probably a good idea, and I think it'll make Deadlands a bit cooler. But I'm not sure it's 100% worth kickstarting. But I do think if you don't already have it, then definitely
go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you do already have it, and you've got it all physical already, just do the digital. It's not that much money, and you get the rules update and all the extra stuff on top of it. Plus this entirely new Pop Point campaign, which is sick.
Well, like disgusting.
Yeah, disgustingly good.
It will make you blush.
It will. Yeah.
It's so disgusting. Your local church will try and ban it. All right, well, that, ladies and gentlemen, is bloody Deadlands. Nick, how many thumbs up you giving Deadlands?
Well, I do. I mean, I've not played a great deal, but I did play Huckster, and it was a lot of fun. I love the gambling with the devil thing. That's a lot of fun, especially when the devils, can be quite funny. But
well, I thought it was pretty funny when you played a Huckster, and throughout the entire campaign, never once did a deal with the devil go well for you.
No.
And then the one night you're away and somebody played your character, they got the best results 3 times in a row.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
exactly.
That's fantastic.
So I'm not fit to be a Huckster, but I did play it and enjoy it immensely. What I want to know is, take the pre-published story away, and is there a lot of playability in there for sandbox and homebrew?
Absolutely. Even more so than beforehand.
Okay.
In the new version, that's what they've really been pushing towards now.
Brilliant.
The new plot point campaign is completely non-linear.
Okay, that's cool.
The old plot point campaigns had an element of non-linearability. Is that a word? It is now. To it. The new campaign is built to be almost completely sandbox.
And you can cherry pick cool bits out of it and stuff like that as well. I mean, I haven't played enough, and I don't know what the new one's like. But from what I have played, I've enjoyed it. And obviously, if it's got, if it's like similar to Savage Worlds, 3 out of 4.
The campaign I ran for you was Dark Tower, so it had elements of Deadlands like sprinkled in, but it was pretty much it's everything. It's a big melting pot, Dark Tower. So
exactly,
we haven't played the official setting, but
I think Deadlands would work well if you wanted to run Dark Tower using Deadlands. I think that would work pretty well. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. But like, I know you did for our game, but I mean generally as well. It's like them two are quite a good fit.
And also, like as you say about the sandbox thing, one of the like sort of iconic adventures for Deadlands is one called Coffin Rock, and it's basically like super old school type thing because it's just a town. It's like a big sandbox type adventure, and you could even have that as like the basis for a campaign.
Nice,
like where people would venture out of that town kind of thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that was the first adventure that actually came out for Deadlands.
Oh, cool.
Right.
It's
good as well.
For Deadlands Reloaded back in the day, yeah, and it is excellent.
All right, well, we better move on because this has gone on too long. But we'll just go around in a circle here. We're going to say buy it or don't. Nick, buy it or don't?
Personally or generally?
Do you?
Me personally, no, not at the moment. Okay,
me, I would say yes. Get it secondhand on eBay. Owen.
I say back it all the way because I'm a huge fan of Deadlands. I'm a massive Deadlands nerd.
I want to use a bit more of my actual one that I have got before I can worry about the new one, but because there's a lot of story there, that's probably a good idea. But no, by all means, it looks cool. I want to check it out eventually.
All right, so let's move on to electro letters, shall we?
Yeah.
In the future, you will be able to send a letter or parcel from anywhere on the planet. This, sir, is the electro letter.
All right. So today on Electro Letters, we asked for your RPG problems, and we're going to solve them. And I know we've done this one before in Electro Letters, but I thought it was a good one. I think actually the problem is though is that last time we solved everyone's problems too well, Nick.
Yeah.
And so we actually only got 2 emails on this subject.
Whoops.
So first one comes in from Daniel Irwin, and he says, I once had a player that was a complete rules lawyer. Couldn't do anything without wanting to consult the book and slow everything right down. How do you deal with that?
Take his book away.
That pretty much solves it, eh? And his phone, so he can't look it up online either.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good fucking answer. You could just either take it away by force, just snatch it out of his hand, or just make a rule that you can't have it at the table.
Yeah.
First step is to have a chat with the guy, I'd say. And
no, I say straight to action. Just reach over as soon as he opens the book. Just snatch it, and he goes, "Hey, what are you doing?" And you go, "Fuck off!" Like Shane Hensler.
Throw it out the window.
Yeah. You see a car run over it outside.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I also think like I sort of say at the beginning of each campaign that I run, and especially one shots as well. I'll just say like outright, one of the house rules is there's no looking stuff up in a book. Even me, I'm not going to do it, right? Unless it's absolutely important, like if the rule means a character might die or whatever. But I just say, yeah, that's my rule. No looking up rules. What we'll do at the time, if we don't know
That's a
rules,
great
we'll
way to
make
do
up a ruling and then look it up between now and next week.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, another reason why session 0 is so important, so that you know what the players can expect and what they can expect you are going to be bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm. Totally, yeah. Because if you lay that groundwork straight away and just say no looking up rules, then you won't have to take his book and chuck it out the window and tell him to fuck off.
That's not to say that someone's versed in rules who can help the GM if they can't remember, but it's when it starts slowing the actual gameplay down that you've got an issue, haven't you?
What is it? Yeah, there's a very good video by Puffin Forest about this very subject, and he says, that there's a difference between a rules lawyer. A rules lawyer is called that because a rules lawyer is a bad thing. Nobody likes lawyers; they're evil. But then there's something like a rules adjudicator, where if the GM just says to you, "By the way, what's the rule for that?" and you just go, "Oh, it's this," then that's fine because you're just trying to help. You know what I mean? And it's something that I will often do, and often when I'm playing with people that are a lot better than me, I'll often ask them, and that to me is normal and helpful, and it's not you trying to get an edge by consulting the book. But yeah, watch that video by Puffin Forest. It's very good.
Nice.
Thanks. That's a really I like that term, rules adjudicator, because I've got several people like that who I'll go to in a pinch at my table if I need to know something because they know it better than I do. Yeah,
exactly. Next one comes in from Yorkus Rex. He says, "Violence at the table. What do you do when a player wants to get physical? This ranges from tantrums like throwing dice after a bad roll, all the way to threats and fist fights. Talk them down
Call
or
the
throw
police.
hands." Now, Nick, I've at our table we've had a couple of tantrums, but I've only ever seen you get into a rage once, and it was the most mild-mannered rage ever. When you were dice rolling bad and you went, "Oh, go away," and threw it off the table.
I did, yeah, at Ryan's house. That came straight to my mind as well when that came up.
It was because you're such a calm, nice person. It was like that was the most mild temper tantrum I've ever seen.
Go away. Yeah, and then I couldn't get it because it rolled under Ryan's TV cabinet, and then I looked like a right Burke.
I forgot about that. One of my favourite ones as well is when actually we this isn't how to solve this issue. This is us creating the issue. But I remember once there was a whole argument that happened because somebody couldn't pronounce the word chimney.
Oh my god!
And the guy threw a bit of a tantrum, and then also we mocked a guy at the table for mispronouncing the word dagger. And I won't say who he is, but he may have been a former host on this show. And yeah, he went mental, didn't he? He was like, "Right, I'm not taking my turn."
Still, that is very different to someone actually wanting to throw down fists.
Yeah, I can't say I've ever known it to go that far. That's cool. What do you do to just go LARP and then it turns into a real fight and you have to...
You just yell the word LARP and everyone starts wailing on each other.
like it's Bundle.
I imagine as you say the word LARP, like an air horn going off, like LARP.
Everyone just grabs weapons.
Anyway, look, if somebody is really throwing a temper tantrum, you can't beat a well-timed cigarette break.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, guys, do you fancy taking a quick break? And then the guy's just in there. You're watching from the garden as he's just flipping the table, and you'll be like, "Don't worry, he'll calm down in a minute."
But I mean, if someone at your table is actually getting physically violent, they should not be at your table. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
And if they actually, if they actually genuinely threaten someone out of character, I mean, that you should be able to back up that person if they want to press charges. I'm going to outright say so. We're way beyond the X card at that point, people.
I suspect Yorkus is joking a little bit, and I imagine at the table, right? If somebody goes, the thief, where they always do that fucking annoying thing where they go, "I want to rob the other characters, right? I'm just going to pickpocket. I'm going to pickpocket the paladin. He's annoying me. He's not letting me have any fun." And then he pickpockets him. Imagine the player playing the character just leans in and goes, "I'm going to fucking kill you." You're like, "What, in the game?" And he goes, "In real life."
And then the GM goes, "What? No whispering." And they're like, sorry. And the game, I'm like, "No." What's going on?
You say that, but I mean, we've all been to conventions, and you've seen that one guy in the convention who's just like, this guy clearly, is one bad game away from becoming a mass murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
So
that
we
guy
need-
who wears the chainmail at fucking Con on the Cob that I talked about. he's armoured. He knows the fight's going to
He's
happen.
ready. He knows it's coming.
All right, well, I think we sort of didn't answer that question very well, but we've got a couple of general questions that got sent in as well. One was from Yorkus. And I don't know what the fuck he's on, but I want some. He says, would 6 sets of metal dice in a leather bag be considered a dangerous weapon? Asking for a friend.
Is this the same guy that wants to fight back with the other bloke?
I think
Okay,
that he's
now
it's
everything's
like
in
as soon as
somewhere,
the fight kicks off at the table, somebody yells LARP and he's swinging his little bag of dice,
Dice
getting a bit of momentum up.
When you put those two questions together in context, it becomes a lot more lighter. Yeah.
It all makes sense now. He's the one that was doing the violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So his real question, I guess, is how can I stop myself? I keep on assaulting my players with a bag of dice.
With a metal dice, yeah. I would say, I mean, 6 sets, and yeah, you're talking like soap in a sock territory, if more.
You've got some metal dice, man. They're fucking heavy.
Yeah, I'm going to bring them round. I'm going to bag them up and bring them round. We'll be allowed to back out again into the world.
So what? When we're meeting up and playing on tables again, you're gonna just start swinging them under. As soon as somebody annoys you and you see you just swinging that bag of dice, all right.
Oh, mate, yeah. You know when someone just makes a rash decision after a lot of planning, and you're like, okay, fine, then I'm not even going to huff anymore. I'm just going to start swinging the dice back.
All right. Next one comes in from Henrik Erlandson. Sorry about that. Have you heard of a single-player RPG/board game named The Beast? You write a daily diary. What the fuck does that mean? Oh, you write a daily diary for 30 days, and it creates a story about a sexy beast trapped in your basement. I think he means basement. It can be a family game, I think.
What in the world?
I suspect English isn't his first language.
Is this a game or just what he does for
Right,
fun?
a daily diary for 30 days and create a story about a sexy beast trapped in your basement. It can be a great family game, I think. Okay.
Well, I think by family game he means he wants us to review it on one of our dodgy episodes.
We have to find it. Yeah, we have to review that. Day 1, and I've put the beast in the corner.
Yeah, the Beast. Oh, I've just looked it up, and all I can see is there's a supplement called The Beast. The publisher's called Naked Female Giant. The game is The Beast.
Wow.
It's print and play. It's only $10 on Drive-Thru-RPG. This is an unsettling erotic game for one player of imagining you are having sex with the Beast, an alien and inhuman creature, writing a diary describing your erotic encounters, your fears, and your anxieties. Bloody hell.
Is this Chuck Tingle's other RPG?
It's his pseudonym. He goes under Naked Female Giant for his really sexy stuff. Cool. Well, thanks for the recommendation, Henrik. We definitely will probably give that a review. Definitely, probably. All right.
We'll look at it.
Last one comes in, and this is one for all three of us. So, John the Paladin, he says, "What's the best meal you've ever had?" Start with Owen.
I had a meal in Venice that was just beyond belief. We went to a Michelin-starred restaurant for my honeymoon with my wife, and the two of us have never cried from food before or since, but I cried 3 times that night because it was so good.
If I was in that restaurant, I'd throw you in the water, mate.
Yeah, he's just sitting there crying. This is a really
Get him
nice
in the canal.
sausage.
You've no idea. It was incredible.
Do you guys ever watch the Great Pottery Throwdown?
No, can't say I do.
What?
Well, anyway, for some reason it just reminded me, the host on that show, he cries at the drop of a pin, like every single episode, right? Because he's a potter himself, and he judges these pots that people have made, and every time somebody makes a nice one, he cries, and you always see him, he starts to laugh, and he's like, it's just fantastic, and he just starts crying.
I never knew there was a Great Pottery Showdown. I know there's a new sewing thing as well, isn't there? Now that Bake Off is on Channel 4, are they just trying to make the most absolutely Middle England nicest reality competition show possible or something?
Well, the pottery one is actually pretty decent, because if you want to see a grown man cry at somebody making a toilet, you're in luck.
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, so best meal. Owen, you cried at a meal in Venice. You're the most middle-class man in the world.
I don't care. I'll take all the Guardian points for that.
I just wanted, one I wanted to mention, I actually went to a Michelin star restaurant as well when I got my bonus from work a while ago, and it was it's a number one Indian restaurant in London called Amaya, and it was fucking amazing. We had tandoori grilled lobster and shit like this, and the cocktails are fucking incredible. And I didn't cry because I'm not a complete pansy, but Nick, how about you? Sorry, I'm being really mean to you, Owen. I don't know why I've got like this.
You're always so mean.
That's all right. It's like I ask for it. This is, in fairness, Harrison, this is the third time I've been on the show. If I'm not getting bullied by you by this point, I wouldn't feel like I'm welcome.
That's true. But just to let listeners know, I do like Owen. I think he's really nice.
Yeah,
we love him really.
The fact that you've had me on 3 times means that you're allowed to do this to me. If I was on the first time, you were really nice to me. The second time, we had a bit of banter. Now you can bring out the knife properly, like you do with Nick every week, because I'm like part of it.
Oh no, I wouldn't do that to Nick. I really respect him. Why am I doing this? I'm so sorry, Owen. Just so that we're clear, I think you're great. Nick, best meal you've ever had.
You too.
Funny enough, Owen kind of said the same one as me. I actually was in Venice on a honeymoon, and it was one of the nicest meals I've ever had. Clam spaghetti. Oh man, it was so good. And all the other bits and pieces that went with it.
Well, I can't believe you both went to Venice. I went to Cornwall on my honeymoon. Although Cornwall is fucking amazing.
I mean, did we not get married a bit later in our lives than you did, Harrison, and thus when we had a bit more money to spend?
That's true. But you've always had money, Owen. You're a posh toff with plums in your mouth.
I am a posh toff, yeah, it's true. I'm pretty posh. Yep. I don't have any money now that I'm writing role-playing games, I can tell you that.
Yeah. So that was the best meals we've ever had. Thank you, John the Pal. He always sends in weird questions. But we
like John.
We do. But let's do an outro, shall we?
Oh yeah.
His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already.
Clam spaghetti.
So first of all, I just wanted to say thank you, Owen, for coming on. And if there's anything you'd like to plug that you're into now, you do writing.
You're doing something, Owen, aren't you?
I do have things. Yes, I have something out, don't I? I do. So I have a mini settings for Savage Worlds out called Bartington Halls, which is weird goings on in a public boarding school in England. Imagine if Mallory Towers had zombies in it, I suppose would be a way you could describe it. I guess
zombies,
but it's.
I love throwing zombies.
It's all that. A mix between Buffy the Vampire Slayer and The In-Betweeners would be another good example, I suppose, or Bad Education. Good. The American listeners are hearing this and thinking, what the earth are those shows? But yeah, but yeah, if you want to get really British, old boy, you can find a very British setting there. And if you search for Wild Eye Books, then that's Wild Eye, as in the thing you have in your head, books, as not die, then you can find it quite easily on Drive-Thru RPG.
Nice.
There's some other things coming out soon, but
isn't it?
Boarding school. Yeah, exactly.
Wicked.
Yeah, I played in that setting, and I can confirm it's really good. Give it a buy on Drive-Thru RPG, but also, don't forget while you're there to look up 3T RPG Publishing, and if you want to support this show, buy a couple of our products. They're not quite as good as Owen's, but they're getting there. No, they are very good. Go and pick them up, because that's a good way to support the show. And of course, don't forget that you can subscribe on Patreon. You can become a Bone Lord, a Necromancer, a Dreadlord, or a Devil King. Mm-hmm. And in
join
doing
the
so,
Dark Army.
Yes, exactly. If you join the Dark Army, when it comes time to fight the war against good on this planet, you'll be the first we call. All right?
Oh, yeah.
And of course, you can contact us at 3trpgpod@gmail.com and on all the social medias. And we would love to hear from you.
What the fuck are you on today?
I don't know, man. I don't know why I've got a bit weird. I think it's lockdown. I think that's it. I finally cracked.
It's finally kicking in. Yeah.
It's like how you'd say, when you're online, you'd say things you'd never say to people in person.
That's what it's like, because I know I'm not within punching distance of either of you.
Exactly, yeah. Like
you just have to save them up and give them when we meet up.
I'll send them via email, mate.
Shit.
Oh dear.
That's the scariest thing of all. That couldn't happen in Deadlands, but in Deadlands Croydon it could. get a punch in an email.
Yeah,
Open it up and you get
Right there.
Punch.exe.
What's this? Click, click. Ow! Right.
That's actually quite a good idea.
It
Descent
really
into
is.
madness.
Right, I've been Harrison Hunt.
I've been Nick Lambslice.
I have been special guest Owen Lean.
And remember that D20s are cool, but 20Ds, no, that's a good time.
Yeah.
I miss Chicken McBosh.